beautiful Ashland, Oregon. I am Pleiadian Emissary of Light, Caroline Ra. Thank you all for joining me today. Welcome to Spirit of the Dawn. Do you spend a lot of time in your mind, overworking your brain, thinking through feelings, thinking through decisions, thinking through relationships, thinking through life? I know that my tendency is to process my experience in my brain. Recently, I received the latest release from my guest today, Shai Tubali. His book, Unlocking the Seven Secret Powers of the Heart, a practical guide to living in trust and love, takes us on a heart-centered and empowering journey. Today, we'll be discussing with Shai how we have learned to protect our hearts and rely on our brains without an awareness of the powers and skills within our own hearts. We'll also be discussing how to strengthen these skills with simple meditations and exercises contained in the book, and how to open our heart through basic heart activation. Shai Tubali is an expert in chakra kundalini and a teacher of personal transformation. Born in Israel, he now resides in Berlin, where he co-manages the Human Greatness Center, dedicated to the realization of the greatest human potential at all levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. He is the author of over 20 books, including Wake Up World, The Seven Wisdoms of Life, and The Seven Chakra Personality Types. Shai weaves his wisdom and philosophy through all that he does. I am delighted to welcome Shai Tubali to Spirit of the Dawn. Shai, thank you so much for being here with us today.
With great joy. I'm really delighted to be here.
Oh, it's such a delight. I am wondering, have you been interested in personal transformation and spirituality from a young age? How did you embark on this path?
I would say that it was a young age, at least relatively speaking. I think I started at the age of 20 or 21. And I don't think I completely knew what it was that I was searching for. It was just some kind of strange attraction to Zen Buddhism and those Zen stories and allegories and also some wish to be relieved of social fears that I used to have, and that was it. And then I started reading books, and then from reading books, I went on to study transcendental meditation, and then there was one evening in which the transcendental meditation teacher mentioned the word enlightenment. Spiritual enlightenment, and that was the moment when time stopped, and I asked him, wait a minute, could you please repeat what was that word that you was just mentioning? And he said briefly, enlightenment is a state in which you experience unity with the entire cosmos. And as soon as I heard that, I knew that this was what I was searching for. And that was basically the moment of ignition.
Well, that's a beautiful story. Now you've developed your philosophy so much. Can you share what your philosophy is, how you work with your students and your clients?
Yes. Well, the philosophy is pretty broad, but it's very important to try to summarize it. It is pretty broad because I consider it very significant to awaken as a whole human being, and not just in the upper realms of our spirit. So, but if I summarized it, it would be the awakening of our deepest what I call the deepest human enlightenment. It means that we are not just awakening as spirits, but we are actually awakening as human beings, and that what I teach is always meeting at the heart. You see, because in terms of chakra structure, there are 3 lower chakras and 3 upper chakras. The heart is just at the center, and that means that it unites all our parts, and is the perfect meeting point, in which the secret of our humanness as well as our divinity can be revealed. So that is why I guess also this book is the treasure chest, the one that holds the innermost teaching.
It's interesting. I have the book right here. It's a very beautiful book, Unlocking the 7 Secret Powers of the Heart. It's a small, powerful book. It's really interesting. How did you develop these heart-centered teachings?
How did I develop? Do you mean by?
Did they come to you through your own personal inner knowing? Did they come? What was your experience in becoming able to write a book like this? Where did you gain your wisdom?
2 sources, I would say. One is personal, and it's always, everything that we're teaching comes from a personal experience. Several years ago, I experienced some kind of breakup from a partner. That it was a very, very long and persistent and profound relationship, and one day it was over. And in my experience, I thought that it seemed like the end of the world, and it was followed by disappointment and heartbrokenness. But then, at a certain point, in the midst of that pain, I suddenly realized that I could actually remain with my heart open. And it was a sort of a very powerful moment of enlightenment, because then I realized that at that very moment I could forgive, I could expand my heart, and I could love, and instead of ache. And at that very moment, the heart revealed its enormous power. Instead of feeling weak, instead of feeling a victim, the heart could contain the entire experience and transcend it, and that was like tapping into the source of universal love, and I united with it. So that was a very personal moment in which I realized that heart was power. You see. Because before that, it didn't make much sense that love could be so powerful. Love seemed always like a very delicate flower, and that began to resonate in me the more I observed in people who came to me throughout the years, when I began to realize that the more they connected with their heart, the more fragile they became. They felt sensitive. They became hypersensitive, like they couldn't handle life. That they couldn't handle harsh environments, and that was that became a sort of a question in me. Can the heart be a source of power rather than a source of weakening and hypersensitivity? And that was also a shift in my teaching, when I realized that forgiveness, love, and love as a motivation also that replaces willpower and ambition, all that could be actually the greatest source of power a human being could ever find. And luckily, I have many inspiring figures that to support my claim, like Martin Luther King Jr. or Mother Teresa or Rumi. So it's not so unimaginable. And yet, when most people connect to it, they begin to feel this as if they need to, as if they expose their innermost, their most delicate flower within, and therefore they also need to protect it. You see?
No, I totally understand, because I feel I would definitely fit the description of someone who protects her heart. You mentioned in the book about the shoulders coming forward, and I notice I do that, and I go, now I understand why I do that. Now I understand why I developed that tendency or habit to do that. And yeah, there is so much to discuss. The book is set up with wisdom and action points. There's exercises to do.
Yes.
There's a transformation that you take the reader through.
Yes.
And that's so important. And one of the basic parts of it is the basic heart activation, which is an opening of the heart. And let's discuss what that is.
Yeah, that's actually, if there was one practice that I would recommend on a daily basis, in a way forever, until it becomes an established state in human beings, that would be the one. And it's actually very simple, because you see, sometimes when people say let's connect to the heart, it seems so abstract, like the heart is some kind of I don't know, an unknowable inner source that we connect to through feeling. And in this practice, I recommend people to begin to connect with the heart physically. And since the heart and also the heart chakra is actually responds very quickly to attention. And I'm talking about physical attention. So this practice is basically allowing the center of gravity to shift from the head area to the chest area. It's really because usually we focus our energy on the head. Obviously, this is where our eyes are, and ears, and mouth, and so these are our central ways of communication with the world. Now, instead, the recommendation is to simply allow the energy of the place from which we communicate with the world to become our chest area, and to imagine as if our chest is our new head. This is where we have now our ears, our eyes, and the place from which we speak. So for that, we could even imagine the head disappearing, as if there is only space, replacing the head, and beginning to look at everything from the chest. And the thing is that as soon as we do that, everything changes, because we cannot be angry when or we cannot feel separate, and we cannot feel that we are alienated from others and from the world. It immediately evokes a sense of intimacy, closeness, and such a soft and warm perception of everything.
Shai, do you recommend people do this while we're still lying in bed, or as a separate, we wake up and now do this? How is it most effective in your experience?
Most effective is actually when we walk on the street and look at everything, because that integrates our experience rather than keeping us in some sterile environment. You see, but of course, when we begin to practice it, in order to establish it, it's better to do it by sitting in a sort of a relaxed meditative posture. I could recommend, by the way, I have on YouTube this meditation guided by me for 20 minutes, and it's called the Basic Heart Activation. And to just let this guidance work on us and prepare us for centering in our heart in real life, that could be a very good beginning point.
That sounds excellent. Now, the focus of the book is the 7 secret powers, and I was hoping we could go through the different powers because they're actually surprising, and I learned a lot, and it's very interesting. Our first secret power is heart wisdom. Shai, what is heart wisdom?
Mm-hmm. Well, heart wisdom is actually an extremely important concept because usually when we look for some kind of clarity or some kind of confidence, and we begin to search for it within our mind, all we get is contradictory thoughts. Thoughts always come in pairs, you see. It's always one thought with its opposite, and then when we begin to search for clarity, we actually achieve a great deal of confusion, because we don't really know through the mind. We can only think through our minds, and we can, of course, collect information, and we can collect what we can call knowledge. But when it comes to knowing that cannot be affected or damaged by doubt, for that we must have a very different place of knowing, and here we actually have much more knowing than we think. Every time we have a certain experience, our heart extricates from that experience a sort of deeper wisdom, something that cannot be contradicted by thought. It has no relationship with doubts and with our confusions. And also we have a sort of a knowing that has nothing to do with experience, that comes prior to experience. For example, some may have this knowing that they are a soul in a human form. Some have this knowing that love is the only thing that matters. And we can, when we begin to ask ourselves, what do we know? Not what we think, what do we think, but what do we know deep within ourselves? Then we can slowly gather a long list of such knowing that could be used whenever we are confused. You see, whenever we are confused, we can return to that point of knowing to be free from our doubts and our contradictions. That's why I'm recommending here in this chapter to create what I call a book of knowing. It's really like buying a notebook, a beautiful notebook, and begin to write every day or every now and then one sentence that I know without a doubt, that cannot be taken away from me. And these statements that could never be taken away from us, they can only be related to our heart, which is directly related to our soul. I could give just one very tangible example. It is when we watch movies, and or read books and they contain certain statements, and then we burst into tears. We cry because our heart recognizes some deeper truth that it already knows. So as soon as we have those tears, we must rush to this notebook and write this sentence. What did we know? What did our heart recognize? Because those statements, they are connected to our innermost being.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Heart wisdom. That was our secret power number 1. The second secret power is vulnerability. How can vulnerability be a power? I'm very curious. Can you share with us?
Yeah, well, that's connected a bit to what we said at the very beginning. Many people think that what makes them stronger is to toughen up. You see, because we live in a world that is full of sometimes violence, hostility, negativity, and people think that since their heart is so tender, they need to wall it up and make sure that nothing could enter. And then they begin to replace the center of their being with their mind and with their ambition, willpower, and what we consider strength, the strength of our individuality. The reality is that the more people do that, choose this strategy, they actually become more vulnerable, and they become so vulnerable that every insult, every small insult, every harsh word could shake them completely. And they become unable to contain even small negative energy, small negative moments. So this secret power tells us that when we keep our heart open, we actually cannot get hurt, and cannot become wounded even. You see, because whenever we became wounded, whenever we got hurt, was actually when we tried to prevent our heart from feeling the pain. But when we open our heart completely, unconditionally, we are shocked to realize that we could never get hurt. And that's my own reality, my own experience. I never close my heart. It's permanently and wholeheartedly open to any kind of experience. And whenever something what you could call something negative comes my way, I only open my heart even more. And when the heart is open, nothing could enter it. The heart immediately transforms that energy.
Right. And instead of reacting to things that happen and making things worse, which is
exactly
I tend to do. Okay. Wow. We are up to our secret power number 3.
Yes.
Freedom through forgiveness. This was a fascinating chapter. It really was. And it talks about how events from our past hold us back, and that through forgiveness, we get freedom from that. Let's talk about that. It's fascinating.
I always use, and also in this chapter, the fascinating example of a marvelous woman called Eva Mendes Kaur. She died a few years ago. She was she lived in the US, and she was a Holocaust survivor. Now, I really admire this type of people that manage not only to survive such an experience. She was in Auschwitz, and she was a part of the Joseph Mengele experiments, and together with her sister. Now, when she got quite old, she realized that she remained a hostage of her own past experience. She remained a prisoner of Auschwitz. And then she realized that the only way she could ever free herself from the past was by a complete, profound forgiveness. And why do I love this example? It is because if she could forgive, then who are we to remain to hold grudge when it comes to such small acts of forgiveness? So this amazing woman actually came to the trial of the bookkeeper of Auschwitz. He was already very old. He also died, and she came to him. She approached him and kissed him and hugged him and told him, I forgive you and all the other Nazis. Now, as soon as you say that, as soon as you can say that, immediately your heart becomes so much bigger than the Nazi. You see, what Nazi could affect you when you are able to forgive them? So she said at that moment she was no longer a prisoner of Auschwitz. She was released from the ghosts of the past. And this is basically, this story holds the entire message of that secret power. When you forgive, you become stronger, not weaker. You don't lose, because our mind tells us when you forgive, you are a loser, because now you both got hurt by that victimizer, and you also forgave. So what is left for you? You have nothing. But what is left for you is finally being able to love yourself, because when you forgive, you are so gorgeous. You see, you cannot resist loving yourself because you've done something that your heart loves the most.
Wow, thank you for sharing that beautiful story and for including it in the book. It's so powerful and so important, and teaches us all something really beautiful. Wow. Our fourth secret is the ability to love. This seems so simple. Maybe for me it's simple because I have a large capacity to love. That's not an issue with me. So talk to us about the ability to love. What is that like? Because I can't even imagine not being able to love. Let's talk about that.
First of all, you are blessed to be able to experience that. That is wonderful. I will tell you, this secret power is a response to many people's feeling that before they could ever love, they first need to love themselves, and also that before they could ever love, they first need to heal. And to go through a sort of a journey, and everyone or many people have this in their imagination, that one day in which they will be finally able to love. And it's always tomorrow. Tomorrow they will open their heart. Tomorrow they will become givers. And until then, they relate to life more through the receiving part, and sometimes also through the taking. I need first love me. And that is one of the biggest illusions that concern the capacities of our heart, because the heart can love right here, right now, with no preparation. It doesn't need a journey of self-healing. And I know that is sometimes shocking because people can't even conceive that. they say, of course, first I need to heal. I'm wounded. But it's like parallel lines, you see. Of course, people who got wounded need to heal themselves. That I don't reject. But this has nothing to do with what I call our heart's abundance. When we contact the innermost and the truest nature of our heart, we realize that it's exploding with the very emotions that we're hoping to receive from our environment. We have inside of us this love that we're so much hoping to feel. And when we say I hope to feel love, we actually mean I hope to finally tap into love within myself. So that is what this chapter is all about, and it also contains practices to tap into this heart's abundance. That is, we know it from, for example, when we're, I don't know, very tired and very drained, and suddenly our child needs us, or our dog needs us, or our client needs us, and even if we are in an emotional turmoil, we can find in us that power to love at that moment, that capacity to give.
Right. Thank you. Our fifth secret power is the one I'm working on the most, emotional transformation. Okay, so it's emotional transformation. And yes, this is the one I'm working on. So I think a lot of people are. Let's talk about it.
Yes, of course, emotional, because many people find their emotions overwhelming. When they experience emotions, they experience that their emotions take over, because they are always bigger and uncontainable. But here is a very interesting point about the heart. The heart is a magnetic force, and it is a magnetic force and also a transformer. And this is here we deal almost with the secret of alchemy. And if you place yourself within the chest and begin to allow this magnetic force, you realize that because the heart contains love, which is the strongest power in the universe, something that nothing could ever resist. What happens is that any emotion that you feel in your body that feels overwhelming, the heart literally sucks it into it and transforms it into warmth, into beauty, into appreciation, compassion, and love. So the whole thing is to simply again shift the center of attention to the chest and to allow the heart to do the rest, because the heart does it pretty naturally and also automatically. It just you can say it feeds on our lower emotions. It feeds on our contractions, because it simply guides our emotions to where they really belong, and our emotions are really happy to be consumed by love. This is what we discover through that secret.
Wow. Okay. That's beautiful. Our sixth secret power of the heart is empowerment without limits. And it sounds amazing. What does it mean, and how can we experience that?
Yes. This is personally my favorite one, and if I could choose, and it is it basically says that that love is not only a feeling, but it is also the very basic drive that could make us do anything in life. It is important because when we ask people, why do you do what you do? Why do you, for example, wake up in the morning? Why do you even wash the dishes? Why do you go to work? Why do we have this interview? Then we could give many reasons. The major reasons are, of course, will, ambition, a certain goal that we have, and sometimes it's simply an automatic action that we don't know. For example, I wake up in the morning because I'm just alive, and and that's what I do. But when you begin to tap into the love of the heart as your very own first cause, then you realize that you have an infinite source of energy and motivation to do anything. And here it's a very simple practice. Try one day to wash to wash the dishes and to tell yourself, I'm doing this because I love, or I do this out of love. And as soon as you simply utter even this simple statement, your heart immediately communicates with the first cause of the universe. Why something came out of nothing? Because we could always ask ourselves, why did God bring forth this universe? Why? And of course, we don't have a real why, like a logical one. It's something that could only be explained with this elusive word, love. Love was the first cause, and when we say I wake up this morning because I love, or because of love, that changes everything. And personally, I do everything out of love and because of love, not because of ambition, not because of willpower, and not even to achieve something. And that's something that I found as an endless driving force. And it's enough for a whole life.
I love that. I really love that in many ways in terms of my own work, doing it for love and not to accomplish something, but doing it as an expression of love that I feel. And I
can definitely see that.
I have a tremendous stack of dirty dishes that I'm going to apply love to this afternoon also. So definitely going to test it out on the dishes. Okay. Are we up to the seventh secret power, which is so important to me? It's what I teach as a spiritual teacher is so important, is loving yourself. And that, of course, is loving yourself unconditionally.
Yes.
Which is such a new concept to so many people. They don't know that they can or that they're allowed to. And they split themselves apart into the part they like and the part they don't like. Exactly. So let's talk about loving ourselves unconditionally.
That's I think one of the hardest things for people to do, and this is because there is a split, and the split is within the mind. When we say I can't accept myself, or I hate myself, or I don't like myself, we need to be very suspicious about this sentence. You see, because what does it even mean? I can't accept myself. You see, one of them must be an illusion. one of them must be not me, the real me, and it's always this I at the very beginning of the sentence. And when we begin to ask ourselves, what is this I that splits us, that divides us, that alienates us from ourselves, we realize that it's just all kinds of voices of society and comparisons that we have assimilated. We simply keep comparing ourselves to some imaginary beings, believing that we should have been like them. So this I is completely false, but what is important to understand here is that the mind could never do this. The mind could never allow us to accept ourselves. It is by its very nature this split. And therefore, we need to again move to the heart, where we realize that in the heart, the I doesn't exist. There is only myself, and myself is actually a very warm and intimate and unified feeling within the heart. And there is actually not much question of self-acceptance. It's over. And the heart's mantra in this context is I am myself. You see? And this I am myself basically states I am exactly as God made me, or as nature made me, and I cannot help it. That's the perfect imperfect creation of nature or of the divine, and it's a natural design, just like zebras or elephants. You see, nobody ever expects zebras to become elephants, and the other way around. But for some reason, our mind tells us that we should become either elephants or zebras. So this is madness, but you could only realize that this is madness when you sink into the heart.
Right. The desire to be an elephant when we're a zebra, or the reverse is always experiencing lack, like something's not right, and we're always in that needy place of lack, and we don't get out of it, and we can't get anywhere in that state.
Exactly. The mind imagines that we could actually be something else. That's a hallucination, you see, because we cannot be anything besides ourselves, and it's so simple.
And it's fun too when we get there. It's a fun place to be. It really is.
Yes.
Wow. So okay, we have lots more to talk about, but we have just here is the lovely book that Shai has written. It's Unlocking the 7 Secret Powers of the Heart: A Practical Guide to Living in Trust and Love. It seems like it would make a great gift, and buy one for yourself, get one for someone else. It seems like it's just the perfect. I wish I'd gotten that as a gift years ago, but you hadn't written it yet. So, now you live in Berlin, which must be a fascinating city. Really interesting place to be. And you have co-created the Human Greatness Center. Can you tell us what your work in Berlin is like, what you do there?
Yes, of course. The Human Greatness Center is a center that deals with Eastern philosophy combined with Western philosophy, and it tries to respond to what I believe is our current need, which is again human enlightenment, because I don't feel that spirituality as we know it can really solve the most burning human problems. You see, because I've met so many people throughout the years, and many of them don't seem to be able to, even when they manage to tap into very high states of consciousness and meditation, they don't know how to be humans. Now, my principle is that we are meant as humans for greatness. There is such a thing called human greatness. So the center is dedicated completely to extricating that hidden greatness as humans. And that, of course, is done on many levels. It is through spiritual transformation, emotional transformation, and therapy, spiritual therapy, physical transformation, and so much more. It's an integral center, essentially.
That's lovely. Okay, you've written many books.
Yes.
But you wrote and directed a film this year.
Yes.
After the Future is the title, yes. I believe. Yes. Okay, now I'm totally into this. I really need to know about the film.
Well, it's first of all, it's currently it is introduced in several festivals. It is a festival film at the moment, and this is a science fiction film, a 34 minutes science fiction film, which was actually my wild attempt at expressing myself also artistically, because you see, as a spiritual teacher, I'm expected obviously to provide people with answers, but art, and this is what I love about art and also science and science fiction in particular, is meant to provoke questions and to make us think and consider the complexity of our existence. So this story is an imagined future, not what we can call a near future, in which, and who knows, perhaps this could happen one day, in which one scientist, one molecular biologist, reveals that in this what used to be called the junk DNA, which is most of it's the unknowable part of our DNA. We have actually our entire life from beginning to end presented, which means that we don't really have a free choice. And that it can be known exactly when we are going to die, how we are going to die, when we are going to fall in love, when we are going to break up, and the story revolves around one young man who knows that he has only 1 week left to live, and he needs to come to terms with this and to ask himself, if he knows that, can he escape this fate? Can he somehow encode his DNA in a different way? Can he transcend his DNA? So this is half philosophical, half spiritual question.
Wow, I love it. What language did you do it in?
English.
It's in English. Great. Yes. Okay, because my German's not very good. Okay.
Mine too, don't worry.
Okay, though I did try to learn German. So tell us, Shai, what your current project's on. What are you working on? What is there another book going on, or what's happening in your future?
Well, yes, this might come as a surprise. I'm actually in October entering a university as a researcher.
Wow.
Yes, I'm going to research, and that may be that in a way corresponds with my latest creation, which was the movie. I'm going to research the science fiction films and the way they conceal philosophical statements about the meaning of life and the nature of humanness.
Oh, I love that topic. Yeah. Now, my son's a filmmaker, so I know
Okay.
that world, and you'll find in science fiction and also in the world of anime, you'll find so much interesting. They cover so much interesting territory in a way that seems entertaining, but it's all there, and that's why I think people love those genres very much. So.
Exactly.
Okay, wow, this is amazing. We have had an especially delightful time today with spiritual teacher Shai Tubali discussing his latest release, Unlocking the Secret Powers of the Heart. I invite you to visit Shai's beautiful website in English language. It is shaitubali.com/en/home. And then there you can learn more about Shai's work and his many offerings, including the basic heart activation is also there also, and also at your YouTube channel. Shai, I am hoping that you can share some closing words of wisdom with us today, in addition to all the lovely words of wisdom that you've already shared.
Well, yes, I will still relate that to the heart, if I may, and I just want to quote one sentence from a movie. Here we again relate to that, a movie called Adaptation. It's a movie by Spike Jonze, and it's one of my favorite movies. And in that movie, there is one moment in which the hero says, "You are what you love, not what loves you." And this is such a profound statement, because we always connect love with a certain need, with a certain expectation to be loved, and we rarely realize that our need to love is actually our need to experience ourselves as sources of love. So this sentence is what I would like to us to have as a closing statement. You are what you love, not what loves you. When you love, that is your true identity. You are the source of that experience. Love is an experience of yourself as a source.
Wow, thank you. That was extremely beautiful. Shai, thank you so much for joining with us on Spirit of the Dawn today.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Deep gratitude to Brian, Zach, and Synergy for the use of their song, Embrace the Change. I thank all of you for joining with us today and invite you to visit spiritofthedawn.com for more inspirational interviews. Sending love from my heart to yours. I am Pleiadian Emissary of Life, Caroline.